Hi, my name is Bradley Bowers. I'm an artist and designer, and I'm here with Design Milk for DMTV Milkshake. So I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I have in one of my early prototypes for a new dinnerware collection I'm working on. And I don't know what order they're in, so I'm going to shake them up and we'll see what happens. Okay, first question says, what is the thing at the outer reaches of your imagination right now, something that you know you want to explore? For me, what's really exciting is VR and NFTs. And what I'm excited about is not necessarily the blockchain aspect or the cryptocurrency aspects of it, but what we actually can achieve if we go into these new technologies, interested in making things that can only be realized by these new technologies. I'm excited about making virtual objects, but virtual objects that can somehow migrate into a shared physical reality. I don't know what that would look like. I'm imagining Iron Man-like technology, but something that allows us to create things with quotes around it that would not otherwise be able to exist, that physical laws of thermodynamics or physics or quantum physics just wouldn't allow to happen. That's what excites me. Next question, let's see. What does the fashion industry get right that the furniture industry doesn't? First, the fashion industry pays its top creatives very, very well, and the furniture industry does not. I think what I love the most about the world of high fashion and even more democratic fashion is that creativity is not only a wonderful form of expression, but it's a fantastic way to make a living and to have a career. And for some reason, some industries, fashion being the leader, have figured out that its creatives do better when they're able to live better and they're able to live lives that aren't stressed out by the minutia of bills, utilities, and just surviving day to day. So kudos to the fashion industry for paying its top creatives. The furniture industry needs to get on that immediately. And also, before I reach in for that next question, also we need to start understanding that the fashion industry rewards the hierarchy of ideas. If you do a haute couture collection, the expectation is that you're going to make something fantastical and wonderful. Maybe everyone's not going to buy that gown or that suit or that jacket, but they need to know that that's a possibility. And then the fashion industry understands step one down, make it more democratic. Let's do ready-to-wear collections. And those ready-to-wear collections are beautiful expressions of wonder and technique and craftsmanship. And then let's step down again and let's do in-store collections. And those might be a bit more approachable. But no one says do one or the other. They found that if you link those three things together, a lot of magic can happen. What I did in haute couture can inspire what I do in store. And for some reason, furniture is slow to the game. I hope they pick up on it. And I hope maybe if they watch this video, some CEO somewhere will pick up the phone and make that happen. Next question. What's your best advice for young designers who are torn between a steady paycheck and a repetitive job and the thrills and terror of going out on their own? I think first we have to dismiss the idea that a steady paycheck is the goal. It can be a golden cage of sorts. And I was told that when I worked at Procter & Gamble, that taking a job there would be a golden cage. It would be beautiful. It would be pristine. It would be immaculate. It would be polished every day, but it's still a cage. There's still limitations put on you, not because of what you're able to achieve, but because of what the company wants to achieve. Let's dismiss that idea that everybody needs a steady paycheck. What I find more exciting, and my advice to people coming out of school, is find something that when it's horrible, you can still tolerate it, because it will become horrible. It will be demeaning, it will be debilitating, it will also be uplifting, and it will also be the greatest joy you've ever had in your life, but we don't need to worry about when it's magical. What we need to worry about is how do you survive when it's horrid? How do you survive when you don't have money in the bank any longer, when you can't afford top ramen? What do you do then? And if you can still find a way to struggle and trudge through it when there's no hope other than the hope that you have for it, then I would say being an entrepreneur is for you. But if you cannot stomach that, and there's no knock against people who can't stomach that. Some people need that. I need to have that security to know that tomorrow I'll have some cash so that I can go do the things that I need to do. If you can handle that insecurity of entrepreneurship, go for it. But I don't prescribe to this notion of find your passion or find your love. Those are ever-changing things. What I loved 10 years ago and what I love today, some have overlapped, but some have been washed away completely. So for me, it's not about finding a passion. It's not about finding something you love. It's about finding something that you can tolerate when it seems intolerable, the world around you. So my advice would be that. Find something that even when it's bad, you can still get the joy out of it and go for it. And also be serious about your money. You might not make big bucks in the beginning, but you do still need to be serious about finances. You do need to be able to read contracts. There's a lot that you can learn that won't just benefit being an entrepreneur. It'll benefit working in a company. But there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. And actually, you know what that's the whole point of this video, is to answer these questions. So I'm going to spend more time on this. I find that people coming out of school, myself included, are under the impression that if I punch out with a great idea, the idea will take care of itself. False. Incorrect. Wrong. The reason we think that is because we're used to looking at gigantic vehicles, companies that are international, multinational, and what we see are their marketing teams. Actually, what we don't see are their marketing teams, their ad teams, their graphics teams, their PR teams that make it feel like this product just came into existence and everybody rushed to the store to buy it. And because we grow up in that society, we see the iPhone launch and we think to ourselves, well, it's sold out in a day. If I come out with a product that's awesome, it'll sell out in a day. And that's not the case. So what I find is people coming out of school don't understand fully the entire mechanism that drives a creative field. So what I would love for people to do, and it's something that I have to do every day. I started doing it in college because I kind of knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I also knew that I needed to learn a lot. I would investigate and research contract law. I would investigate and research trademark law. I would look at marketing experiments from fashion brands. There's tons of books written on it. I would look at marketing campaigns. I would look at the timeline of a campaign. When did I first hear about this product and when did it actually become available for purchase? And you'll find out that those two things are very far apart. I gotta rev people up to get them excited about something. Anyway, all of that is to say being a creative entrepreneur means wearing a lot of hats. But I hate when people say that because they leave it there. They don't explain what those hats are. It means understanding finances, and what finances means are when you get paid versus when the project is over versus when you need to get paid. And what I mean by that is if you set up your contract in the beginning and you say, client, I'm going to deliver X on this day, I need to be paid this amount before I deliver Y. And then I need to be paid before I deliver Z. And all of those need to be very considered things because, again, you're on your own now. So there's no HR person for you to call and say, hey, where's my check at? You're the person in charge of that. Anyway, there's more to it. Hit me up through Instagram if you want to know, if you have more questions. I'd spend this whole segment on just that one question. But there's a lot to it. It's not overwhelming because it happens naturally, but there's a lot to manage. Next question. How do you balance a desire to create handmade objects with wanting to produce them in an economical way? Well, actually, that dovetails nicely into that previous question. I don't see a divide between the two. The reason it seems more economical to make things on a grander scale is because of the way industry structured itself hundreds of years ago. When the Industrial Revolution kicked off, what we did was we prioritized repetitive sameness. And what that means is if I make this teapot and I make a mold for this teapot, they're going to charge me, let's say, $10,000 for one mold. which means I need to get as many teapots out of that mold as possible to cover the cost of making that $10,000 mold. So the Industrial Revolution said, let's make more of the same thing. That way, this one individual item doesn't have to cover the cost of everything. We can break that up over however many we can pull out of that mold. And companies adopted this technique. However, prior to that moment was the age of the artisan, where someone would make one teapot, or they'd make 50 teapots in a week. And we were able to survive and live off of that model. But when the Industrial Revolution kicked in and machinery was the name of the game, and the machines at the time could only do one thing over and over again. There was a buttonhole pressing machine, and all it would do was press buttons. So you couldn't get anything else from it. Fast forward, and there's been a fusion. The age of artisanship, which preceded the Industrial Revolution, and the age of repetition, which was the byproduct of the Industrial Revolution, came together with rapid prototyping and computer numerical controlled, or CNC prototyping, or manufacturing, which now says, ask the computer to do it. And what that means is, actually kind of an example here would be this piece. This is a 3D printed mother mold. If I design a bunch of pieces that have the same material consumption as this block, the computer does not care what the outcome looks like. It'll just make it. And if it just makes it, now we're back to the idea of repetition not having to be the same. The repetition is the 3D printer is always spitting out plastic, but it's not always making the same thing. So I've adopted a lot of 3D printers into my studio, and I work with a lot of artisans who I can give digital files, and they can translate those things into physical objects. So I find that you can still be economical, but the economy isn't an economy of sameness. It's an economy of individuality. It says the individual parts can still be unique and different, and we can make them effectively. Whereas before, Industrial Revolution, teapot, we could only make them effectively, cost effectively, if they were all the same. So for me, I'm always pushing to do unique pieces in the studio or unique pieces with artisans. And because I understand a lot of the processes, we don't spend a lot of time screwing up. And that's how those things get expensive. Unique pieces get expensive when you have to make 20 versions of it to get it right. But because I play around in the computer a lot and I use these machines in a way that I think is exploratory, I get all of the screw ups out of the way early. So by the time I sit down with a weaver or a ceramicist or a metal worker, we're already kind of on the same page. We're almost already in sync with each other. So all it takes is maybe one or two back and forths and we're ready to go. So economy can be individual. It's just we have to break away from that mentality that same is the only way to be affordable. Next question. Can you share a time when your research yielded an unexpected new approach to creating a product? No, I can't. And the reason for that is that's not how my process works. I never have ever once gone into a project and said, I want to make this. Meaning I've never gone into a thing saying, I want to make a teapot, or I want to make a lampshade, or I want to make a bed. I've never done it that way. When I'm researching carte blanche, throw everything at me. And as I'm watching something or learning about something or reading something, then a spark will go off where I'd say, oh, you know what's interesting about circle packing algorithms is that could kind of be really cool if you use that same language to obscure light. Oh, that could be a cool lamp. So my research starts where I just want to learn. I just want to ingest as much stuff as possible. And then later, either in the moment or years later, sometimes an idea will come from the research. But I have never set out to say, I want to make a cool lamp. Let me research circle packing. No, that doesn't work that way for me. For me, that would seem like you're trying to force something to happen, and I'd rather something be an elegant result of an unrelated exploration. All right, next question, and I think I get one more after this. Let's see. What would you be doing if you hadn't gone to an art school like SCAD? I have no idea, but I know I wanted to be a veterinarian. So that would have been fun. But I have no earthly idea. I don't even want to think about it. I had such a blast at SCAD. I had such a profound self-finding moment that I don't want to think about what it would have been like otherwise. And last, but most certainly not least, let's see, I don't even know what this was. Oh, this is a long question. Okay. Oh, here we go. I kind of already got on this tirade earlier. You said that the furniture industry leans on the tried and tired. Why do you think this is so, and how do you get around this to make and produce work you find exciting and new? I think the industry leans on the tried and tired because they are still stuck in that industrial revolution mentality of, we know that the last time Jim Bob made square bed frames, they sold. So let's ask him to make square bed frames, but in white this time. And then next season, we'll make them in blue. And Jim Bob is going to come to you and he's going to say, hey, could I make those maybe round? And they go, well, the numbers show that square works really well, so let's stick with that. The industry is trying to cover all, it's recouping its investment. The problem is they believe that in order to recoup their investment, they have to keep giving the public the same thing, not realizing that the public is just as diverse as the individuals making. And the public wants new things. The public wants to see new ideas. The reason they keep buying square bed frames is because you keep giving them square bed frames. So it's the snake eating its own tail. You say that all they buy is this, and they say all you give us to buy is that. In my mind, I go, let's try it. Rather than doing gigantic full factory overhauls, let's do capsule collections. Let's do micro collections. Let's introduce machines to designers that have a certain capability and tell the designers, go somewhere with that. The mechanisms already exist. The problem is industry wants such grandiose promises that when you make such a big promise, such a large collection, the only way out is to make sure you sell every single unit. And in order to sell every single unit, you want to get rid of any potential for failure, which means you get rid of any variation, which means we're right back to square bed frames in the same old loop, never-ending cycle. So I think if the industry read a little bit into its counterparts, like fashion, like technology, every year Apple comes out with some new device. Every year Prada comes out with a new collection. Balenciaga comes out with a new handbag. And they sell like crazy. And for me, I don't understand how no one else is seeing that. Balenciaga doesn't come out with a new bag in blue. They come out with a completely new silhouette, a completely new idea. And that feeds their fan base. That feeds their demographic. Whereas if you look at some furniture companies, the same thing they made 60 years ago is still in production. And that to me is sad because that space being taken up that could be occupied by some fresh new mind who could eclipse those sales. Balenciaga, Demna at Balenciaga right now is eclipsing the sales of his predecessors. No one would have thought that. No one would have said that. But when you give if you give new creatives the chance, they'll surprise you. I'll surprise you. The kids at SCAD right now surprise me all the time. So for me, it's a matter of giving space to exploration, but not making that exploration support everything. It can't be that. So actually, I'll answer one more. Let's see, why not? I think we've got the time. That's just the last one anyway, so. What's the most amazing thing you've recently discovered? Ooh, recently, as in like 2 or 3 days ago, I heard that NASA has the solar probe that was launched in 2018 has finally made contact with the outer limits of the sun's atmosphere, the corona, and it's already sending back images of what's happening inside that gas cloud that obscures the sun. And so to me, that's, oh my God, that's so amazing. It's phenomenal. That excites me. Those are the things that I watch on YouTube. That and like BTS behind the scenes videos, but behind the scenes videos of the K-pop group BTS. But no, I get excited by those types of things because it's a little scratch in the right direction. With so much destruction and so much negativity in the world, it's always nice to know that that's one portion of life. There's still people out there who are curious and who are exploring and who want to see further than we've ever seen before. So that's something new, and I'm excited to see what happens in the future. Anyway, thank you guys so much. This was from my little corner of my studio. Ask questions, be curious, and go out there and break open the mold. I'm excited.